Well, our next discussion is on diversified licensing in India. And for this, I would like to call on stage Mr. Dimand Bakshi, Joint CEO at Labs Imagica. Let's have a huge round of applause. Mr. Vishal Sinha, growth hacker and startup evangelist in brand licensing space. Ms. Smita Maru, Senior Vice President, Shimaru Entertainment. And as we all know, once again, Mr. Jainil Aga, MD and CEO, Planet Superheroes. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, this panel discussion is based on diversified licensing in India. Okay, let us begin with our panel discussion.
So Samir ji is not around? Rutio? Okay. Right. So just a moment. So I think today we don't have Rohit and Samir ji. I think we couldn't make it. So we're going to discuss on diversified licensing, and we're going to really look at there have been many obvious categories, and like in the earlier session people were talking about characters, and kids is the core focus for licensing in India, and like Mr. Parmender mentioned about other licensing arrangements like Reynolds, but the idea here is to look at diversified licensing from the lens of not more obvious, and so we have Smita here from Shimaru. I think they are doing something which is pretty diverse in its offering, because I've seen many such products which is going across, which is generally perceived as more obvious categories. And so we're going to discuss on how Shimaru's vision is to go about, because I think we heard about there is no plan and it is purely Excel sheets, and I think if Smita could share the vision, I think that can really put things in perspective. And before I think we get on to that, I would like each of the panel members to introduce. I think they have been in the previous session, but starting with Smita, I think we'll go from you to Dimand and so on.
Oh, okay. I think most people who are left for this panel already know who I am, but still, Smita Maru from Shimaru, and currently, of course, I handle the kids segment for Shimaru, but currently heading the licensing and merchandising, and having introduced Yedas, which is our Bollywood Madness brand. So that's a brief introduction.
Hi, I'm Dimand Bakshi, CEO of AdLabs Entertainment Limited, and our brand is Imagica, which is essentially a theme park, water park, snow park, and a hotel. It's an entertainment destination, and we are here to entertain everybody. That's our real objective and focus here.
Yeah, okay. I already done that. So, Jainil Aga from Planet Superheroes.
Okay, so I think we've been through the formal round of introductions now. So I would request Smita to share her vision and what is, because the strength of licensing is leverage across multi-categories, and if it's diversified, because there are two schools of thought. One is a very focused approach and a certain category-led, which one would obviously think of, but I think in licensing it works the other way around. If there is diversification only, then you can leverage and really build various touch point and experiences with the same consumer group through their entire day cycle or life cycle. So Smita, you're...
So I don't know, I can't call it a vision. I think I'll go with, there is a long-term vision that is of keeping Bollywood alive in whichever way, shape and form. And basically Bollywood or all the films are more or less it's content, which is audiovisual, and you cannot touch it. So one is unlocking that potential of Bollywood and allowing the consumer to take a piece of Bollywood along with them home, and showing how in the Western market we've seen Hollywood or all your superheroes, people, it's an identity, it's the fan in them that they can express through these collectibles or their everyday, a t-shirt or a mug or whichever way. And Bollywood has not done that so far. I would say the market was never right for it. And Bollywood has only restricted itself to promotional merchandise. And for Shemaroo and for Yedas, our whole point is that it's Bollywood madness, so for the fan in you, for the Bollywood crazy fan in you, this is an opportunity to own a piece of Bollywood, to display your Bollywood attitude amongst your friends and family, and to feel good about it. So that's the vision. And we are looking for opportunities when we are in this licensing and merchandising event. So
I would, great, I think what you said is right. I would like to articulate it in my own way. So when, I was previously working for a couple of multinationals in the licensing space, and the first slide when you're introducing India was either Taj Mahal, and the next slide would be India is all about Bollywood and cricket, I think. So that's where I think Shemaroo is trying to hit right, and Bollywood signifies Indianness to the world. So I feel from where I stand, it's a global licensing opportunity for them, because even various other markets which is consuming content, like Amir Khan's Three Idiots is now getting very big in China, it has done, and also global markets in the US. So when you look at box office collections and the split, so I think with the internet, I think boundaries are over now, and it's a global market. And what we need to understand is how does one really express what you need to do. One is the way of characters and those images being used. But the challenge is how do you articulate your creative strategy. I think that is where Shemaroo will have to be very prudent, because being in this space, I believe there is messaging, but if you're doing fashion, and if you just take a basic silhouette and do it, it doesn't work, because people are getting more and more conscious about fashion, and especially with brands like Myntra. And so if you look at athleisure, people has a very different kind of clothing. Like typically, just to share from a fashion perspective, like when you buy a trouser, you want, so there's drop crotch happening, there is, joggers. And so as a brand, if you're not marrying to the trends, so definitely a messaging, I think that's where it would really be a challenge. And having said that, why I'm saying, because fashion is the largest category worldwide. I think globally it is, with fashion accessories, more than 25%, if I'm not wrong, which is a significant chunk considering what 71 billion dollar of business happening. So it's a great opportunity, and I think if later on we will look at what is the categories, because while it's diversified, there are certain categories which would be the key category creators for the brand, or the leaders, I would say, which will really open up the market. So
I mean, you're right. And it is a very challenging, category, aside from the fact that it's already a very challenging business in India currently. But, taking a cue from earlier, one of the panel discussions, in fact, the very first panel discussion that happened today, I think what India needs is mass, and essentially an Indian brand in this genre, and for the masses. So when you speak about joggers or Nike or any of these brands, they are aspirational, whereas we are still evolving it, but Bollywood is mass. So I would right now tend more towards going towards the masses, because everyone wants to own a piece of Bollywood. So I cannot necessarily put it in a particular luxury genre, or so Myntra and Jabong, yes, they are giving a particular attitude or, fashion sense to the end consumer. But also to the same consumer, there is this sense of who he or she is. So if they are a Hollywood fan, that's when they go and pick a Marvel t-shirt or, a Disney t-shirt or whatever. But if they are Bollywood, and this I said in my earlier presentation, if you see the youth of India today, and if you go on Vigo or TikTok, these apps, the youth is actually being part of Bollywood without realizing it, and they are not ashamed about it. So I would technically target that, but it's really early days for Bollywood-based themed merchandise, so it's a long way to go and a lot of experimentation.
So just to share a little cue, I think people definitely not ashamed of Bollywood, because it trend came from when I early on in, when I used to go to discotheques, there were certain discotheques which people started, playing Bollywood, and that was like the new trend. And I think I'm talking about 15 years back, 15, 20 years. So I think Bollywood is quite in the mainstream.
Still the trend.
Quite in the mainstream. And
It doesn't look that you stopped going to disco then.
Yes, I stopped. So I think Janil could really throw some light, because he's in the same space selling Hollywood, and how does he look at selling Bollywood? Could be a relevant question to him.
So I completely agree with Mrs. Maru that, Miss Smita, okay. On the fact that to kind of make Bollywood work in India, you have to kind of own your end consumer, which is absolutely among the masses. And therefore your entire retail strategy, what would work for a Marvel or a DC, etc., would be very, very different, right? You are going to have takers at the D-Marts, you are going to have it at the big bazaars, you are going to have it everywhere. Everybody loves Bollywood. Like Bollywood and cricket, like everybody loves that, right? The challenge, you've already pointed out the several challenges, but one specific challenge is how do you come down to that price point, right? With still having that kind of a margin which is still baked in for royalties. Right, I mean, I come back to the commercials, because they are very important. So one thing, if I can add my 2 cents on that, is that you will have to think through if there is an opportunity to do a direct to consumer without having any middleman, in that sense, where it's through a trade partner. It's exactly what the strategy of Myntra, HRX, anybody has been. Despite it being perceived as fashion, at the end of the day, they're giving you very, very economical price points. So I think if you could do something, especially given a amazing, production house and reach, that could be a strategy that would really work.
So we are kind of doing that also, but it's not always online. You also have to be in the, retail space, offline as well. So, no, please.
So I really think that in these earlier sessions also we spoke about Bollywood, and in challenges lie opportunities, right? So one clear thing is that there has never been a very focused and a structured effort to drive Bollywood merchandise, and I really think if you, I have worked with multi-brand retailers, and I'm telling you, they should be the last one on the list, because it takes a long time to convince them, and they are not always very proactive in taking decisions on space. So instead, if you start with the top tier, either online and trade, just flood the market. I don't think it's about royalties and MGs. It's just that choices will fuel demand. You will get a reverse osmosis. Don't wait for.
I think I
You just have to
appreciate
start.
the suggestion, and in fact, it's about finding the right partners more than.
Just imagine if
MGs
Being
or,
Human on, of course, Salman is a great personality and perfect initiative which he signed up. But on sheer one brand, it is doing so well. Why not create a library of content which is very, very targeted to emotions of Bollywood and not just something? I'm sure it's just up there to waiting to lap up huge amount of revenue. So, yeah, I'm just advising. I'm not doing it.
Thank you so much.
Nothing is
actually.
impossible
No,
for the
you
guy
are-
who's not doing it.
No, but it's good to know that people from this industry share an opinion about Bollywood, because Bollywood has been very lazy.
You are sitting on ocean of content.
I know.
So just unleash. Don't wait for retailers to tell you how to make range plans. Tell them you make your Excel sheets, do what you want. If you have the capability, sell, or else I'm going somewhere else. They'll come.
Advice taken.
See, somewhere seeing this market, because I think it's 2018 and it's been 11 years when I started doing licensing way back in Disney. I think the first set of licensee base was created by Disney, if I'm not wrong, because and those were the days where modern retail was also not so big, and I have built the business hands-on, so it's not that it was there. So there have been little developments, and the market is very different today, because, for example, there was no convergence in terms of the content, the brand, and the retail or e-commerce, which is available today. So those conventional model, because earlier those days, what used to happen, like he said, in terms of DTC, because margin, there was, let's say, Primus Retail, who was the licensor of Mickey Mouse. Now he was a trader, and then he would go to Shopper Stop. Then he would, and eventually, like a 150, 170 GSM T-shirt single with plastisol print. Dimant knows he's from the retail side of the business. And I looked at the pricing. He was like 899 rupees. And when I looked at it, I said.
And then we ask, why do people wait for end of season sales?
Yes. So when you try to do that, it's like when it's going to the consumer. So it's a great brand, the product is right, but nobody, because the contracts doesn't govern the pricing, and ultimately, if the consumption is not happening, then so what happened is I kind of re-looked at the entire economics, and it's like understanding your business modeling. So I think Shemaroo at this phase, if you can really do your business modeling right, because seen both sides earlier, first phase and now, I think you are in great space, because there was no YouTube those days. The way it is, there is no data people are consuming. If you have content, and if probably you can create engagement through social media, and then, so that model is your direct to consumer model. And I don't think so it is difficult to create a community today where Bollywood madness people want to share. And I know for sure within every community there is a certain set of people who are Bollywood buffs. In every community and every society, I guess, if you are able to engage that cluster and then and here, see, there are two other things also apart from business modeling, is your product proposition. So while we might talk about Bollywood and cricket, I said, so Sachin was signed by Mr. Biani way back in those days, and such was launched. But the expectation from the product, and it's not that Sachin was not a great brand then and now, but the product translation of the brand and the experience was two different things. And if you're just writing the label and
don't scare people like this. Let people start selling. Yeah, there is a famine. There's a famine of opportunities of merchandise around Bollywood. First, let people take some initiative. By the time you give so many examples and case studies, she will say, okay, let me perfect my plan, hire McKinsey's of the world, do everything, and it's all done.
No, but
so I'm saying here, see, at this platform we are here to share experiences, and if you could really share the journey that we have, because we have young guys doing e-commerce, and I think and as in he's definitely because I think it's a new generation who is looking at the entire startup ecosystem, putting their mind, monies. And when he said he's done Peppa Pig, like I was heading Viacom for a while, and I know how they work. And if you have bet your money with them in the way it is, and you have success, I would say it was a great bet. But like in every business scenario, you tend to take certain exposure and risk, when you're with minimum guarantee and everything. And when there is a new property, so taking back to the previous discussion we had on license or licensee, it's not about exclusive, non-exclusive. It is all about the opportunity that the company sees and the way the person sitting there at that point of time, how much empathy and realism he has to the business. See, ultimately, it's a business goal. You can look at being on the same side and saying, boss, this is the situation, I need so much, what can we do and how we can work together. But when you have more work than you can manage, so I was listening to Parmendra also talking about, like, I have dealt with more than 100 licensees, and when you try to spread your time and you know you can catch them once in a quarter, you know what kind of business and how it's not the willingness, but eventually the people define the business. And early days of licensing had people from media, sales, business, and they were looking at straight cash. I'm not debating that. They have been mix of, and they are definitely mixed bunch of professionals in every segment. But having seen the reality, definitely one has to choose, pick and choose. And but for new starters like Shemaru, I think they're not new starters. The content is there. It's just there, and you have to just model it right. So I think guys are in a great space. And secondly, I would want Dhiman to share their strategy on how they look at. So they are the Indian Disney story. That's how I call them. I don't think so that he takes offense to that.
Yeah,
But
India, Disney is really aspirational. Even if we are 15-20% of them, I think it's a great progress for us. So we are essentially a high capex project, and essentially, if you divide us, it's essentially the physical and the emotional and extendable merchandise opportunities that we do. And what we have strategically thought about it is to make every opportunity very extendable in terms of licensing and franchising opportunities. To set up a project like this takes a very long time, as well as these are upwards of 500-700 crores of minimum investment, whereas we have invested almost 1650 crores. So it's not easy to roll up a project like this. So we've said that on a physical extendability of a park, have a franchising come a royalty based format. More importantly, from an emotions part of it, build character strategy more robust, and make characters very extendable. So right from merchandise which we house, also getting into animation is one another foray that we are getting into soon. These are all partnership formats. And the third is services. So right from having lovely birthday parties for children, wherein which they can call our characters, make an entire experience-based opportunities what we are scaling ahead. So one is to come to the park, experience the content and the full day enjoyment that one gets. In fact, we are now a 1 night, 2 day kind of a destination with almost 5 opportunities to do plus a hotel. So we want to be part of people's wardrobe. We want to be part of people's life. If we can penetrate every household of India, that's what really our goal is, and then go beyond South Asia. Yeah.
so I think what Imagica is in a very sweet spot, considering for the large players like Disney viewing more of India as a non-theme park market, because that's how the cluster they used to view as far as and
No, for Disney, in fact, very interestingly, almost for last 7 years, we've heard that Disney is coming.
no, it is not.
But Disney can come, provided government puts at least 0.8 times the investment that Disney puts. If Disney comes, one good thing that will definitely happen is having metro station right on Disney's doorstep,
Yes.
proper road access infrastructure, and without that, they don't come. So if you see Hong Kong, Disney
Yes,
for an
I-
example, yeah.
So I think what they're creating here as a value is engagement and experiences. Every kid's dream, as far as I know in India, I know a lot of people travel from far north who just come to Bombay specifically in summers and December, like vacation time, to take their kids to Imagica, and the kind of engagement and memories that you are creating. Because as a marketer, I feel at the early age when you create those memories are embedded deep in your subconscious, and when you want to connect back, so we had this gentleman from Amar Chitrakatha talking about nostalgia. That nostalgia really helps you consume, and that's where the resilience of the brand happens, where not just the kids merchandise, the adult merchandise also, once the treatment of the entire product is right, is consumed. So what they're doing is the kind of bonds they are forming, I think that's their asset, like how Shimaru has the content-led asset. So I think it's a great base or solid foundation for licensing being created with Imagica. And I'll ask Janesh in terms of being in the e-commerce and with Planet Superheroes, where he is looking at mostly all the characters which come from outside. I'm not sure. You're doing Chota Bheem?
So I'll just clarify. So we are omni-channel. We actually have a network of 10 stores. We have a tie-up which will be announced soon with the biggest cinema hall in India. Along with one coming up, I think I can make the announcement maybe here, is with Mahesh Babu's theatre in Hyderabad, which is going to be the most premium one. So we've kind of, completely nailed the retail model on terms of unit economics. In fact, I just found out that we have already been talking through different people. One of my VPs was talking to Imagica as well. And so we understand the value, exactly the value proposition they're talking about, that you have content, you have a consumer, you probably have your in-house characters, and you have that footfall. Now you need partnerships, either through yourself, you develop it, or you come with partners like us who provide this whole merchandise as a service. So to the context of this panel discussion, we are totally not only into, we call Planet Superheroes because that's the biggest one. We are open to any kind of character merchandise, right? So whether it is, that's why we are into Peppa Pig. Peppa Pig is not a superhero, right? It's a cartoon. But for the 2 to 6, Peppa Pig is their superhero, right? At the same time, we are into gaming. We are getting massively into gaming. We are talking to some of the biggest players in India, where we are going to do in-app integrations of our merchandise. We are probably doing deep linking with some of the biggest horizontal e-commerce companies who have the network, who when they buy a movie ticket will have merchandise straight from Planet Superheroes at their store. So we have to get innovative when you're thinking about this whole diversified licensing. It's not about opening up a store, selling it, or, bombarding on Facebook. You got to start thinking from a win-win from all directions. At least that's my experience.
I completely agree.
So I think the movie or the multiplex tie-up that you had, because there is a company, Excel, they were into DVD sales earlier, probably it's been like 7-8 years now, and they had a similar setup, and I think they have tried that, and they have their own learnings, because while people are going to watch movie, it is at the waiting time is the time that you get to really, while the footfall is high. I think the malls are built on that anchor store, and that's how the model is. So I think it's a pretty interesting format to really capitalize on, depending on in the entire consumer journey from buying ticket to coming to the theater. Where is your point of sale located? I think that's
absolutely, and you hit a nail on its head. We do not believe that it comes very naturally for somebody who's watching a movie or coming to watch a movie to start buying stuff. But that's where technology comes in. That's where we are very tech enabled. So we have endless aisles. You have an amazing product which you now have brand trust, because you've got that product in front of you. You've got a tablet, you swipe it, and it gets delivered to your house, right? So you are doing 2 things. You are getting the impulse buy, which is important because the guy just seen the Avengers movie. At the same time, you're not forcing them to carry bag loads when you want to enjoy a popcorn. So that's the way you think. That's a very relevant point, and
right.
that we also do believe that the conversions will not be that high.
Yes.
And that then also comes back to the earlier discussion I was having on how much of a win-win partnership can you come up with. For example, this deal that we did is a rent-free deal, because those guys have the vision. They feel we add value to them. They said, let's do rev share, right? That's when big good things happen.
No, so I'll tell you what. The biggest killer for any such initiative is the reality component. And if it's not the leased, so generally what people do is when they are leased properties, they want to cut down so much on their lease, and that's why they asked MG. And if you look at why Shoppers Stop is in a state that they are today, because of converting from a buying and merchandising to a leasing model, which is concessionaire model. So somewhere, if you look at more evolved markets world over, it's the large anchor retailers in malls are on rev share basis. So I think that's a very collaborative model, and I think if you have done that and like you're saying, then I think that's the right way to do it. Because what happens is when you are into the groove to really grow the business, and I have seen so many retail formats, at least in last 2 decades coming in, what's happened, the enthusiasm is there, but suddenly when the good months are there in festive, you are happy, and when the lean starts, like I think after Feb, I think after Valentine's Day, everything ends, right? So until monsoon, it's very, and also retail is very, what do you say, weekend skewed, 50-60% of business, and thanks to the disruption of e-commerce now. All the factors, if you really kind of contain for your outflow, like since I think you're a finance guy, right? If I haven't, you're from a finance background?
Yes.
Yeah, so definitely that's why your structure and math. So that's where your math starts failing, because your operations and your outgoes remain constant. And if you are doing that hybrid model, and also try to do more of partnerships, I don't know, in retail, you're doing COFO or FOCO, or, what's your model, if you can elaborate?
Sure. We do both COFO and FOFO as well. In fact, we've realized that when you are entering the market, when you want to get a franchisee model going, you need to first, the proof of the pudding is in the taste. So we have made sure that each and every store that we have built out has been profitable from month 6. All right, and it has been hard. So we encourage, because we have a lot of copycats who come in and do everything that we do. So we really want them to try and copy this, because it took us 2 years to perfect the retail model. We have our Gymrofs. If those who don't know, gross margin per square feet, what is to be the contribution of which category at which gross margin. One number which goes left and right, that is what defines you from being profitable and unprofitable, because the margins are that thin when you're paying high rental costs. So we do both models, and we in fact are open to even another hybrid model, but I don't want to get into those details. I would love to know what is the kind of models that you guys work on for the stores that, if I may ask a question.
So definitely, Dhimant is the right guy when it comes to Gymrof. I think Gymrof, Gymroll and the other gyms, I think he's much more acquainted. So
yeah, so typically if there is a good brand pool, and if there is a array of characters which have inherent ability to pull, then a rev share model works for people. But generally, if there is no benchmark, then a retailer would want to index it to productivity that they would have generated otherwise. So it's very case to case basis. I don't think there is one formula that fits all situations. So it should be a win-win arrangement, like you said. So we are open to both. We don't really say that come only on rental or come only on revenue share. We figure out what it is and how it's beneficial to both. Yeah.
I think if I have to really comment on what you're doing, the focus has to be on the product mix, because there would be definitely 20% of the products which will contribute. It's the same. And also looking at the aging of the stock. So a lot of times we keep sitting on it and we don't want to, because so I think if you are able to do the right stock turns.
So business of retailer is managing inventory and not managing margins.
Yes.
When you have a corporate structure, when your appraisal is on the margin, they would be averse to discounting and keep piling up inventory, ending up to cash flow crisis. So that's one thing. Yeah.
I think,
and that's why the least concession model work for people, because it is risk free, which is not the great strategy actually.
So I think he said it right. He's been with the retail business for a while, and I think he knows. So, but
I'm learning.
Everybody's learning. So I think inventory stock turns is crucial, and I think that is the make or break, because
actually one concept that do not get discussed in retail is asset turnover ratio. If one really were to do that, it's a completely different ball game.
So I'm loving this conversation, because in the earlier panel there, people thought about spreadsheets and vision. it means nothing, man. You better know your numbers, otherwise you are not going to survive. You agree with me? What he's talking about, asset turnover ratio, is one of the most important things. Your sale through rate, your inventory cover. The only difference that we are doing, that why we even exist today, is because everybody, and we have also have raised funding. We have, we are tech enabled. We have venture capital. I come from that background. We went back to the fundamentals. We said, boss, the problem is not about online, offline discount. It's like we've just not done retail correctly. How many people are tracking their inventory on a daily basis? How many people know what is that Pareto principle, top 20 giving 80? How many people are discontinuing and replenishment through automated systems? So we don't talk about that, but that's what is powering our back house at the back end. That's how you can scale quickly without spending too much money, right? And that's when the franchisee does not have that at an individual level, but you do that at a corporate headquarters level, so they are getting the benefit of that data. So just exactly to your point, that if you don't have your inventory and your cash flow managed, you are out in retail, right?
Retail is very simple, one line. If you got it, get rid of it. If you don't have it, get it.
I think on a practical note, something which really makes or break one, definitely I said stock, is one has to achieve the right supply chain, because even successful brands, like we were talking about, so Manish was here on being human, but I think they've spread it, but still their supply chain, I've seen their season stocks coming at least, but it also depends on the partner to partner. It does not come, it's always deferred by 60, 90 days, and then the fresh stocks come and it goes in markdown, considering USs. So I think supply chain, and when you have such diverse line of merchandise, I think that is something that one has to be very prudent with. Good part about the kind of business you are in is you can also factor in for seasonality. So if you're doing back to school, then you have the rainwear, and then you have so on. So if you do quarterization and 52 weeks spread on to what's the focus area, and you run campaigns, then you are able to get a very efficient return on the investment that you're doing, because not seeing yourself as a fashion retailer, but seeing, okay, what is selling, and there's a spike which comes. So let's say school bags, there is, like, for example, swimwear is just April. Okay, so when you really stagger your multiple products and really get behind it, so you will be able to get better throughput. And it's good to be diverse in the kind of omni-channel platform that you're doing. And apart from that, also looking at various other opportunities. I think you are tech enabled, so definitely, like how Amazon says, so somebody who buy this also would buy this together. So if we can do a little bit of the analytics and AI, definitely, I think, because technology is a great enabler. I think data is crucial, and the retailers or the e-tailers, the biggest difference is how one is using data to your advantage. People have data, they don't know how to structure it, what to do with it, they will just collect it. Like, you go to a mall, people say fill coupons, and but what's happening with it, what we are doing, except people selling credit cards, how is it that one is really making good use of it? For example, in his category, for party products, if somebody has bought party products on a certain time, every year the birthdays are going to come on the same date, so how are we kind of factoring that in? So if we can really kind of tech enable in terms of how many times what would buy. So for example, school bags, how many kids have bought 4 school bags in a year? I don't know any. But understanding that cycle, or maybe doing an exchange offer that time, so there are ways and means how you kind of stagger your product focus, and also build expectations right with each licensors. Somewhere in the face-off that I was looking at, I think what we all forget in our routine is we don't listen, I think listen not to the licensees or licensors, but to the consumer. So I think if we start listening and say, boss, this is the market fact, and it's not about me or you or the plan. If something, for example, you made products, you made 1 million water bottles of a certain kind, let's say WWE with a character on it, but if it's not moving, what does the brand do? And are they sensitive to it or not? Because that brand has been there, and there has been a journey. Consumers' preferences change. I know character licensing, so just some nuances, I'm just sharing, is school bags. So 16 and 18 inches, I don't know many people would be aware of. I'm just saying because I am a very product oriented detail. So in India, 16 and 18 inches and at least 3 compartment bags was the biggest category in school bags. The pioneers like Genius, which is now with Safari and other guys doing it. But now in that segment today, after 10 years, that's not the category which is existing. It is the category span of the impact of the character licensing. So earlier, a 9-year-old and 8-year-old would buy. Now it's not happening. It is just shrinking. And that is also true to, if you look at companies like Mattel globally, because of digital impact, how many kids are playing toys is getting very preschool skewed. So there is market reality. If we don't evolve, adapt, listen to consumers, listen to distributors, and filter out what's story and what's there, I think that is going to be crucial in terms of really building a success model. And somewhere in India, the quality of or the evolution or the understanding of the business, people stuck to certain product categories. I think if people would understand and have a long-term vision, on both sides, licensors or licensees, and that would really determine the success of licensing industry. Because, like one would say, like I would say in a line, farming, if you're cutting trees every time and you don't get fruits, and that's what licensing business. I call it's a seeding business. You seed your business with the right partner and grow it, support it in good times, bad times. And that's how it will, because every time if you are cutting the tree and you're trying to sow, and that's where large companies, I don't want to name specific, but their business turnover versus what's today is not as per where the economy has gone versus their contribution or the market size. So that's the view one needs to take. And in terms of just understanding your diversification in terms of product mix, how diversified is your product portfolio?
We carry more than 4,000 SKUs across 50 categories, probably going to grow even more. As you correctly said, the mix of the inventory some of it will have a cyclical effect depending on when it's back to school season, when it's winter wear in the, obviously hoodies and stuff when you are in December. Most likely the most important part of our mix is actually the movie calendar mix, coming back to, the Bollywood thing, but this is more like the superheroes. Because the best thing that's happened to our business is that Disney bought over Marvel, and they come with a lot of money. So that means they're going to have at least 3 movies every year. That's a given. It's part of our investment thesis to our investors. So that calendar, the movie calendar is in fact the most important supply chain input, which goes into what we call the product lifecycle management, which, as you said, goes back to lead time. Is it coming from China? Is it coming from India? Which factory is it coming from India? And that whole design, pre-approval process. So in terms of, I completely agree that having multiple inventory and SKUs is a challenge, which is why before jumping and investing money into trying to sell and discount and get into different places, we actually spent a lot of time on our backbone. In a backbone infrastructure. So right now I can tell you our franchisees don't even use Excel sheets. They have their own logins, they have their own transfer pricing, they have deals which are directly available to them. They might be in a train, they might be in a bus, they might be moving, they might be in a movie, and they can place an order that goes automatically to a warehouse. It gets shipped within 24 hours, right? So we realize all of this stuff, that if you are a franchisee that's running in a mall, and if you miss a weekend, as you correctly said, you've missed 80% of of that week's sales, because that's exactly when it happens. So it's taken a lot of effort and it's taken a lot of learnings to arrive at that calculation. It's not like we are aced everything. I think every day we are making mistakes, and that's the nature of any sort of startup and business. But at least I completely resonate with what you're saying in terms of how difficult it has been, but those are the problems that we need to focus on.
So a lot of food for thought for Smita.
No, actually, I kind of agree. The challenges that he's talking about and all the discussion you guys had, and it's got me thinking, because Shemaroo was in the home video business, and we had a nationwide network of dealers and sub dealers, and it was constantly week on week. That is the challenge, that there are just 20% of your titles which are doing 80% of your sale, and yet you will need those driver titles to still come in every year, those 4-5 big ones, which are not even going to help you recover the monies you paid for those licenses, but the rest of the train will still go. In Shemaroo we keep saying you engine chahiye, dabba to puri train ready hai, lekin every now and then you have to induce the people down the chain to continuously replenish their stock orders, and your sales team can go and physically and I'm talking, this is pre technology days when you couldn't do this. So I can completely understand what he's trying to do, and I think it's great, because if we can enable technology, I think you can have a better handle on your stock situation, because as he rightly said, if the stock is not moving, you're dead. It's not the stock which is dead, but you're dead in your balance sheet. So
the ways and means of really getting rid of merchandise also. So for example, in hypermarket, when you have food rotting, they try to cut it and sell it at a premium price, because I think there is not a better example to really overcharge for a deteriorated merchandise. Just the state of the merchandise is changed. So I think product bundling really is a great idea there, and that has been a great savior to so a lot of licensees world over, because I've worked across markets and I've seen, especially for the kind of merchandise. So if you are able to understand or do a campaign on a certain character, and if you're doing some deal, so rather than discounting, I think that's one really opportunity to really make on a diversified portfolio of products when you have. So if you can do some crossovers, and those things really help. But at the same time, I would say it's pretty astonishing to understand from you that it's omni-channel and now it's multiplex. It's like quite a complex business model.
General trade, modern retail. So our products are exclusive line that we airship specially for Hamleys has just hit the stores, and it's.
Wow.
I'm hoping the kids are going to go crazy because it's exclusively for Hamleys, and it's a very, very big PO. So we manage modern trade as well. So those challenges there as well, and then there's general trade, and then there is general trade means 18 sub distributors, which I think she was talking about these challenges there, which is kind of a different background. Again, some of the realities of the business that you're talking about. General trade distributors at the state level, they come from a different era, right? They are different in terms of communication. They don't connect with the young 20-year-old techies that are there in your company. The guy joins in for digital marketing, but that guy wants to do everything on WhatsApp. The egos need to be managed, because maybe MD hu bhai, to kya hua that I'm doing a small distributor, maybe MD hu, right? I want to talk to your boss. So these are things which only a person who's kind of worked, you have to have the experience of managing even those trade partnerships very differently. I have to don my Hindi hat when I have to don my suave when I'm talking to licensors, I have to don a different hat when I'm trying to convince a mall owner that our brand is good. So that ability to be versatile and to be able to connect to who you're talking to or selling to also becomes a very important play for your omni-channel brand. And this is not to do with licensing only, but in general for any other brand.
India is that kind of a market.
Exactly.
Actually.
And especially, see, distribution business, I think the game changer now, I think it's quite some time that I think the big guys have done technology-led and every... because earlier days, the deterrent used to be the tertiary sales. If you put in and because you're happy and the guys will sit on it and wins the money and they say, okay, now take the stock back and the movie is gone. So if you are able to really apply the tech right, track his shipping to his own retailers, I think that is very crucial in GT, and especially when you're doing so much of theatrical releases led, because I think what has transformed is the time span is getting as small as possible. So people used to do 2 or 3 months, 1 quarter around a movie. Those were the times, and I think now it's 3 to 4 weeks before the release and 2 weeks after. It's a 5-week plan. I guess that's how. So market is pretty dynamic, but one has to prep it right. And if you're not prepping it right and you take so much of commitments from licensor, and then you make the merchandise, import, and then say this doesn't work and licensing is not great, I think that's not the way to look at it. And I'm quite glad that people like you are into the licensing space and trying to do it so right. I think pretty commendable. And so I think from here we will kind of.
Can I just say one thing,
Yeah.
especially for somebody that's getting into Bollywood licensing, and if that's any value to you, even the Bollywood or Hollywood-driven merchandise that's even worked, right, has not just been around the movies, which you exactly said that there is a buzz, but there has been a lot of immersion of the brand face, right, which is pushed. Now you looked at being human, right? Salman's probably wearing that many times, right? And he's always talking about it. He's talking about a bigger cause that is there. Now, when you take on a simple property by a producer, right, you got the license, but are you going to have them tweeting about it? Are you going to have them being advocates of it? If you kind of can crack that, then even after the movie is long gone, all those followers are going to be like, yeah, this is my superstar who's spoken about it, dekh lete kya hai, right? And I think that attitude, as it's not yet kind of seeped in because licensing is a nascent business, that is only happening when the brand superstar actually has equity in the company, which kind of is also true for being human, right? Or is it for Virat Kohli, or is it for Anushka, or is it for anybody else? So
Yeah, I mean, that is more people, the endorsement market is very well evolved and everyone understands that. I think they don't understand what licensing means. I mean, that's the challenge I have seen in the market. All the rules of endorsement, very clear cut, on both sides of the table. The moment you say licensing and it is pertaining to the same personality, there is confusion. And I've been like amazed how people who've been in the industry for 20-25 years of endorsing and brand tie-ups, etc., they find it difficult to kind of grab the concept of licensing. So I think, but it's evolving. So that's the encouraging part of it, because I think the consumer is becoming more savvy. So this market is more driven by consumer, and everyone in between, all of us, need to really listen and observe the consumer and maybe change and tweak our models and style of working accordingly.
I think what she said is right. They don't understand it. And I think that's where at the industry panel, and if we can really develop a lot of content that we develop on licensing and case studies on how celebrity-led licensing is successful, and if Manish and people like him who are connected to the industry talk about it, and that content is consumed, then I think that's where the change will happen. Because when I meet celebrities, because I'm doing some stuff in celebrity-led licensing, I just tell them, boss, you are selling somebody else's product and selling your own product. So you have to have two different approaches. And I think I and Rutika was chatting about a celebrity who we were inviting and was asking money for speaking at this conference. And I said, boss, if we are asking something to talk about something else, then definitely yes. But when you are coming and talking about your own brand, so I think somewhere they have to be educated, and they will be educated if they feel that, or they value your expertise, because you would listen to anybody as a general human being if you feel that person is sensible and has an expertise. But when you think, okay, I am the boss and that's how it is, and they tend to know it. I don't want to name celebrities. I've had quite a lot of interactions, but I think they need to, as we respect them, that because of their skills, they need to respect the professionals for the expertise that they bring in. And there have been enough of instances globally. I think the music guys do it well. So I think music celebrities have some understanding. And I think it's better off with the sports personalities, because again, they are more professional. With the current, I would say, Bollywood personalities, if they have some background, if they are from the B schools and they have some perspective, or they are from business families, then definitely there is, because I had spoken to somebody who happens to be from a management background. He had an understanding, but most of them they don't. And I think forums like these and the content, if we do it right, and we are able to show them what value we create and differentiate. So I had a similar challenge when I met Sanjeev earlier and said we want to do licensing, and he said, boss, they first feel that we are curbing the opportunity of the endorsement. So you have to strategically align. So there the alignment was something which is more commodity that you don't do to the product, like a oil, like a rice, like a a sugar or something. So that was under endorsements, and then everything else which was true to the value that you communicate. Let's say you're enabling people to teach, so let's say cookware to serveware to all of those. If it's licensed and if you're creating value there, and then you have to reinvent the model. So it was not pure licensing model. So you had a tri-party model wherein there was a private equity player and a professional and the celebrity. You make a hybrid model. So you have to recreate models. You won't be able to really build them, because if they feel that the equity is putting in X crore of rupees and then my value. So it is all about wealth creation to them. If you look at, so we understand their perspectives right, and then say this is long-term value creation, and when the immediate need is kind of you're able to meet the numbers with their so-called in the mind the endorsement number, then. But again, their commitment has to be there. You can't work with a celebrity who is not committed, because that's detrimental to the program.
I don't know if you have time, or we're kind of out of time completely. I'll just tell you one very interesting thing that you mentioned about the conflict of endorsements. Ranveer had actually done the Hindi dubbing for Deadpool, right? And we actually are closer. Our office, our warehouse is actually right next to a studio. So, and he kind of likes our product. So we had kind of sent him a goodie. We said, "Hey, awesome man, you're doing a Deadpool thing," and he really liked it. So the expectation was that he's going to tweet about it and at least say thank you, right? And Anil Kapoor had done that when he did something with Family Guy. So he specifically sent the message that, hey guys, I loved it. I cannot tweet about it because that would be a conflict with some of my endorsement agencies. So how pathetic is that, right? There is a guy, he's a celebrity, he likes something we're given for free, but he says, I can't even do it because I am under contract. And then he says, next time I'm at that studio, I'm just going to come and take a selfie with you guys. We said, okay, no problem, man, we understand. So this is exactly to your point, that how is licensing going to work when the guy has to fear about putting in one freaking tweet, you know?
See, the licensing has to really build and achieve a scale, and that's where people start looking at it. So I don't want to say, but I know early days when HRX was being done, and I exactly know what was being offered and what was the deal. But thanks to Myntra, putting their commitment and belief in it, and now it's turned out, and now everybody is going because people know that. So there was a transaction. It was couple of large digit, couple of crore rupees which was given also as a part, but ultimately they are viewing it from the same lens as endorsement, let me tell you for sure. And that's about it. So I think we need to have invite more and more celebrities here to sit and listen to us, and that's where they are going to end. So we would like to conclude on this discussion. It was a very meaningful, very, I would say, interesting, and kudos to this gentleman here who's done so much. And happy to see licensing space growing, and definitely with Shemaroo being so robust about and so confident about rolling out something which in a way we could see it should, a lot of people say it's very obvious, but nobody's doing it. So great that players like this is going to really expand the category and grow the industry. I would suggest, Rutika, you want to make some announcement, right, before we conclude? Okay, so since we said we are all here, there is an announcement of BAIL, which is Brand Association India Licensing Industry. We are forming this association because, like how Hitesh was here talking about TRI, they have an association which talks about industry-led initiatives. So we are trying to create an association by the people from the industry to really come together and take the industry to the next level, whether it's IP or anti-piracy, or also looking at collaboration, or because somewhere people have to come together, and I think it's the right phase. People are talking about industries 196, whatever dollar industry in India, I'm saying. I think it's time that we all partner, contribute to it, and we would definitely connect with the stakeholders who would want to come on board as committee members, because the single lady is here trying to get all of us together, and I think once we have an association, we would be able to do justice and be part of to the industry to really so I think you want to unveil the BAIL logo. So I think let's look at it. There's some just unveil the BAIL logo. It's here on the sides. Brands Association for India Licensing Industry. So see, the idea of building the association is not this association versus some other association. The idea is to have industry professionals on one platform and to work together with international such bodies to take the business and the industry together. So I think we welcome most of the industry influencers and so Rutika, why don't you come and talk a little bit on BAIL?
Thank you, Vishal, for the introduction. As is rightly mentioned that we are not, the association is for the people in the licensing industry and by the people in the licensing industry. We are trying to build this association so that we can add value to licensees, licensors. We can have a knowledge empowerment. We can do certain workshops that we've been doing. This kind of summits which would help them spread the awareness about what is licensing all about, and open the whole ecosystem. Because right now, like he just discussed, we spoke to a couple of celebrities who's doing licensing on a very large scale, and yet none of them wanted to be ready to come on board and speak about the successful story. Manish Mandana, Prasad Kapre sir, all of them are the business frontiers. But when is it the time that even celebrities come open and talk? There are a lot of even discussions where, if you talk to a celebrity for licensing, they, directly point you out, the managers point you out to the brand endorsement deals, which is irrelevant. So we are trying to educate this more and more. We are trying to build this association so that we're going to have different people from the different sectors, right from retail to, the different stakeholders, like, from the IP owners to retail versions to lawyers, so that we can provide the IP solutions. We can help the, creation. You want to add some more points? So, yeah, I really request people, all the industry, my colleagues, that please help us and support this association, because it's only going to build this industry more. We want to bring the entire industry together. We cannot work scattered if we want to grow, right? The industry grows when everybody comes together and grow together. Nobody can do it individually or by making a team. Teams doesn't work. Everybody has to come collaboratively and work towards, making this huge. And licensing is just born in India. It's way more to go, and we are still on 20th number on the world's licensing map. We don't need to be there. Like China, look at China. China is just year back, China was on 13th. If you see this year's record, they have reached number 7th. Like, could you see the jump? So I don't say that India would do that big a jump if everybody comes together, but at least we make certain progress that by 2%, So that's a request, and we'll unveil more information about this. We have a BAIL website also, and we'll keep you guys posted, and we look forward for your support. Thank you. finally, coming to the end of the entire session, I want to thank all my sponsors, Shimaru Entertainment for showing us so much trust and supporting us in conducting this event. Green Gold Animation for being with us, being patient with us, and this event was supposed to happen in June, which got delayed for certain reasons, which were unavoidable. But they kept patience, and they kept encouraging us, and finally we did this. So we were almost on the verge that this event might not happen, but then we just sitting, and I was chatting with Vishal, and we were discussing like, we have to do it. And the entire event was pulled up in just 10 days. And thank you for Vishal for supporting me in figuring out a couple of speakers and supporting us layouts and plans and things like that. To all the speakers who agreed to come on board on such short notice, a big kudos to all of you guys. And my dear sponsors, without you, I wouldn't have been able to do this event at any cost. I also want to thank Jenil from Planet Superheroes for being my merchandise partner in the last minute in just 2 days. I would also like to thank Manish Rojoria sir for sending out the notepads. I would like to thank even Parminder Singh from Mattel to send out the speakers, books and diaries and all of this in just matter of 2 to 3 days on the merchandise front, and the entire lineup of speakers in 10 days, and none other than my team, my dear licensing corner team, who's worked for 10 days every night till 3 o'clock, going home at 3:30, coming back to office at 8 o'clock in the morning again, and again getting back to the work, talking to people, working on the presentations. My editor, sub-editor, Sutiksha, who's been constantly on roll today for all the interviews. My designer, Rohan Kulkarni, who's done outstanding job on the designs in just another 3 days. Because we also have other clients, we have been working on a beauty pageant, so this was getting really difficult to work, especially with when you have a content to go on live on a channel, at the same time you have to produce a show like this. The timeline gets really stringent. Ishita for being a wonderful host, and Shweta, thank you for constant posting on social medias. I guess everybody is acknowledging that. A lot of speakers have reposted, a lot of brands are reposting it. So thank you for this commendable job. Really appreciate it. And Gaurav, without you, I wouldn't have been here. Gaurav, where are you? Are you here? Okay, he's hiding somewhere. Gaurav, Rahul, my left and right, my bestest buddies, they're the best people in my team that I have at the moment, and I cannot do this show without them. So thank you for being there throughout the time. I am nothing without you guys, without my entire team and my sponsors and the speakers. Thank you very much. And Vishal, thank you. Let's rock the bail as well.